Hey friends, welcome back to Pastors' Wives Tell All. Today we are so excited to have Polley on our podcast. Katie is a sweet friend and a new member of our Pastors' Wives Tell All team. She is a pastor's wife to her husband Ben of almost 13 years and a mom of two beautiful, crazy girls, Annabelle and Selah. They have been in ministry long before they were together, as they were both pastors' kids and continued in ministry throughout their marriage. They were youth pastors for 10 years and are now full-time pastors in Gallipolis, Ohio. Through all of their years in ministry, they have directed youth camps, hosted young adult retreats, and organized pastors' wives events. In this episode, Katie dives into her story of striving to provide for her family through financial strain and how God provided once she laid it all at his feet. Pastors and their spouses who find themselves strapped financially will glean so much wisdom from this conversation, including helpful tips and tricks for stretching a tight budget. So let's get to our conversation.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you are listening to Pastors' Wives Tell All,
a podcast by pastors' wives for church leaders and anyone desiring to take a peek inside our glass house.
We are breaking down walls and crushing pastors' wives stereotypes within the church.
We want pastors' wives and other ministry leaders to know that they are not alone in this. Plus, this is basically therapy for the three of us with a whole lot of dance parties. Whoop, whoop. Katie, we are so excited to have you on the podcast with us today.
What's up, girl?
Thank you. Hi.
Katie.
Thanks for
Y'all,
having me.
Katie Polley has become a dear friend of ours. And oh my goodness, she's actually part of our team now. Woo woo. Woo woo. Can I get a amen?
Amen. Praise him.
So she's been actually helping us raise money for our ministry, which is a huge blessing because we ain't got time for that. So we are so thankful for you, Katie.
Yeah.
You have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Like,
and she hosted a retreat and
Yes.
did like a
Mhm.
fantabulous job.
Yes.
And
So she attended
like
one
that.
last
Wow.
year. Then she hosted one. She's hosting another one this fall in Ohio. Like you
Please come.
are, you get a gold star.
Yeah.
She does.
Yes.
And
Will
hugs.
you really make me one?
we will.
Yeah.
We will. Tell our friends how much you love free hugs.
That would be 0 or negative, whatever you want to call that.
Our goal.
I would like paid hugs. Paid hugs. And
Paid
then I'll give
hugs?
it to
Paid
you.
hugs.
Well, listen, if
Just
that's
gonna-
how it
I'll take 'em.
starts, then, maybe that could be a good thing. But our goal is to make her
Yeah.
love hugs.
I love
hold
giving
on.
her bear hugs. It's my favorite.
I've already smote
Seriously,
you.
though, that could be a
Several
fundraiser.
Oh my gosh.
Give Katie
I may
hugs.
not be involved, but yeah, I might be.
Oh, my heavens. Anyway, so Katie, we are so excited to interview you today. But first, will you please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Tell us about your family, what you do, all the things.
I will try. First of all, this is not what I normally sound like. We're a little under the weather here, probably like everybody else in the world.
Oh, yeah.
for
I
sure.
went to Walmart today in the aisle, and the lady's like, "Everybody's in this aisle right now." I'm like,
Aw.
So anyways, I'm Katie. My husband and I have been in ministry together pretty much since we were engaged. And then before that, because we were pastors' kids. We're both pastors' kids. We decided it'd be a cool idea to bring more pastor kids into the world. And now we're just one pastor kid family. So we've done youth ministry for 10 years, and now we're full-time pastors in Gallipolis, Ohio, for about 3 years now. And in between all that, we've done everything. Camps, retreats, you name it. We've kind of, whatever they throw us in, that's kind of what we do. So yeah,
I love it.
there's me.
Okay, so I have to throw this in there because you say you've done camps, and even at our retreat, you did something really cool
Mhm.
that I have never seen anyone else do.
Mm-mm.
What did you create for us? Tell the people.
Okay. We created an escape room, which we have done several other times before for youth camps, but this one was a little different because we couldn't lock you guys inside the house,
Right.
Because it's easy to get out. So we locked you outside the house, And honestly, it's funny because the whole day it was raining. I'm like, oh no, we're not going to be able to do this escape room. And I'm so excited for it. And I feel like God stopped it for like that hour that we
For
did
real.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then,
like that you said
So, yeah.
hour. It was longer than an hour, Katie.
Well, yeah.
I remember.
Well, it started
was a lot.
sprinkling near the end. Yeah.
But you know what?
Yep.
For somebody who doesn't like escape rooms, like I'm the one who sits in the corner and watches everybody try to figure out what's happening. But I had so much fun.
Oh, yeah. It was my
Good.
favorite.
But my favorite part, you want me to tell you what my favorite part was?
Tell us.
Tell us.
When we got all of the ladies out of the door and we closed the door and I turned around to pretend like I was going to go back outside and I was like, oh no, the door is locked. Whatever shall we do? It was like I was acting and just fulfilling, a childhood dream. So,
Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
it was fun.
I also gave Jessica a little present in that moment that was not intentional, but it happened.
You sure did. And I'll be a
Yeah.
really good friend and not share about that present.
Thank you. I'm
You're
not
welcome.
embarrassed. It
But I like that
happens.
you brought it up.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that wasn't on us.
It wasn't a candle.
It wasn't a candle.
But it needed one.
Oh,
yes.
She just
There you
really
go.
told all.
This is another
And
reason why we love you.
This is,
Yes.
yeah, she's fit to be.
She's one of us.
She's one of us.
She's quietly one of us. Like you
That's
don't see
right.
it coming and then bam,
There she is.
there she is.
I was talking about more than one thing. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Anywho, let's see if we can get on back on track.
Yep.
Yep. Get
I
on
have
it.
no words.
Get on the track.
I'm on the track.
Uh-huh.
We are train tracking along. Okay, so back to you helping us out, Katie. We
Yes.
do want to mention this before we dive into the actual topic of this episode, but this kind of ties in because we're going to talk about finances a little bit. But speaking of finances, Jenna mentioned it. We're not good at that.
Yeah.
We don't have time for that. We're like, let's just do everything for free. Yay. Or we'll just charge a little bit enough to cover a couple things or whatnot. So we're just not good at it. We feel awkward about it. We don't like raising money. It's just icky to us. It's just hard. It's hard. And Katie felt the need or the call to
I would say it was a call.
offer her services to us in whatever we needed. And she has taken it head on. And the first thing she is doing right now is a shoe drive. So could you actually share about what that is, how people can get involved, all the things?
Yeah. I actually accidentally found out about it because I messaged a girl I knew that did taxes, and she's like, let me just look. And then she sent me a link about a company called funds.org that will take gently used shoes and pay you for them. And then they distribute them pretty much all over the world, but primarily in third world countries where they can either use them for personal use or as an income. They'll sell them for low cost as an income. And when she first sent it to me, I'm like, is this legit? Like you see all these links for stuff. And I looked it up and Better Business Bureau gave it an A+. So I'm like, let's do it. Cause you can ask for shoes a lot easier than you can ask for money. So we started doing in Ohio. It's like a 60-day campaign, and they will take any shoe, except rollerblades and ice skates, but I don't really deem those as shoes. So, but whatever.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I didn't know that was even considered a shoe, but anything. And so we've been doing that since January 1st. And even though we have literally had blizzard weather here, I mean, we've been stuck inside, we still are about, I think we're actually almost to 600 shoes now, pairs of shoes.
Wow.
But tell them the
almost
goal of shoes.
the goal, yes.
Because it's much
600
bigger
shoes
than that.
sounds like a lot, but we need more. So they go by pounds, but we're going to go by bags. And so 600 shoes is about 22-ish bags. Our big goal is 160 bags, which will cover all your guys' expenses for the year if we get that much. Our small goal is 100 bags, which will cover half. So we're plugging along. I think everybody, waits for the last minute. So I think it's just going to be bigger in February, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So where can people go to find out where the drop-off locations are and what is the final date to get them there?
So my Instagram probably has most of the information because that's where I've been posting everything. But there's about 6 or 7 different locations in Ohio, 2 in Logan, And when you go on my Instagram, you'll see all the addresses and everything. 2 in Logan, 1 at my parents in Akron, Ohio, 2 here in Gallipolis, and then actually 1 in West Virginia now. We just added another one. So there's all those locations, all the information, even how to reach me would be either on Instagram or Facebook. So either
And we'll
one of
put that
those.
in the show
Yes.
notes so that people can
Yes.
easily access it
Yes.
and go find out about the shoe drive.
And
Yeah.
we're potentially going to have one in our city as well.
Yes.
A lady that I know who owns a gym here she saw your post on Facebook and she was like, you're welcome to put a bin out here and put a sign out. We were like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
okay. So, and I just remembered it.
I was
Now
like,
that we're talking
are we
about
going to
it.
start that?
Yeah, we need to do that.
We're going to have, I say when we get back, because right now,
Yes.
this weekend, we have a conference we're going to speak at. But when we get back from that,
Yeah.
we should probably get going on it.
Yes, we should.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. There were a lot of people that were ready to get rid of shoes, especially at the beginning of the year, after
Yeah.
Christmas. So you might get a lot.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of all things money and shoes and all
Oh.
the things. Okay, now we're getting
No.
into the nitty gritty of
Mhm.
Katie's life, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things I love about you and we love about you is that we know a little bit of your backstory and just with money and all of that. And we've actually gotten to pray with you about some of this stuff. But right now, as you talk, you're doing this massive fundraiser. And we've heard, especially over Christmas, how God has blessed you and your husband and your family in different ways, and the way you're really good with finances, even with a little. And you seem very confident in what God is calling you to do in everything, but even with a little. And I think we want you to hear this. And this, I think, is for the three of us as well. I think a lot of times people think, I just don't have enough or I don't have anything to give. So I'll just wait until I have enough and then start. Or I just don't have enough to even start a ministry or help someone or whatever. But God, if He puts a calling on your heart, He says, do it. And He will provide and give you what you need. And so could you share a little bit of your story and how you felt during the time when you felt like you had very little and kind of talk us through that process?
Yeah, especially because of pastors and pastors' wives, there's a lot struggling with finances.
Amen.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I still feel like we have a little. So that has not changed. But honestly, finances has been something I've had to constantly surrender my whole life. It's not something I didn't grow up in that atmosphere of having a lot of money, like even as a kid. It's something that I've always had to be like, this is yours, this is yours, oh yeah, this is yours. And part of that is I do have a fix it mentality and ambitious mentality, and so that can branch into control, right? Like, I can do this, I got this, I can do it on my own kind of thing. And I think that's where a lot of my struggle happened, is instead of just being like, God's called you into ministry, it's going to be okay, you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours doing millions of other things, just trust Him. I took on a lot. I took on as much as I could, to make ends meet before and after kids.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my whole life has been like God being like, hello, I own a cattle on 1,000 hills, just ask me, I'm here. And that patient father just standing there like, when you're ready, I'll help you. I feel like that's been my background, and not that entrepreneurship and businesses are bad, because they're not. And sometimes God uses those and calls you to those. But for those of us with that mentality of ambitiousness and fix it, we can very easily turn it into our God, right? Like turn it into something that's going to be our answer instead of the real answer.
Yeah. What in that time when y'all were struggling, what are some of the ways that you tried to help your family financially? Like what different side jobs or whatever it may be, what'd you have?
All that striving.
All of them. No, I'm just kidding.
All of them.
Well, the small things we did is we did, couponing, like the actual hardcore binder couponing, which I don't recommend if you don't have enough time. And then, couponing through apps. We did small things, like we even made our own laundry soap for a little while, which did not work well because our clothes didn't smell good. So
Oh,
My
yeah.
husband's
I
like,
tried
we're
that
not
for a
doing
bit.
that anymore. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you do it right, it works, but we didn't do it right. Oh, the online survey things where you can get like 5 cents for doing one. We tried those for a while. And then just your basic, watching where you spent your money, and even we gardened for a while to help with stuff like that. So we tried all the little things.
Yeah.
And then we did 2 really big things. I had a full-time job. We were in ministry, and for the most of our marriage, I had a business of some sort too. For about 11 years, it was a health business. And, at first it goes great, right? But then when it's not what God wants you to do, you either slow down, or he stops you, or you lose that fire for it.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I did that for 11 years until my very first pastor's wife retreat, when I actually slowed down after a really hard year. And God's like, just let it go. Just let it go. So I did. I dropped it. And then a month later, I picked up something else. So, I'm like, okay, good. I let it go for a month. I kept it simple. Oh, look, here's digital marketing. Let's do this for 2 hours a day. And, it's the same pattern. Like, it works for a little bit. And maybe God even uses it to teach you something, because he always uses whatever. But then eventually it's not going to, because it's not what he has for you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny you mentioned couponing. That was like the first thing you said. I used to do that too. Like hardcore couponing, where I would go to Publix and I'd be so excited. I'd have all my coupons. I'd have even like the $5 off, like a $25 purchase or something, along with everything else. And I remember walking out of there with groceries, spending $20 for $200 worth of groceries, and feeling
Oh,
so
oh my gosh.
accomplished. But you know how much time that you're right. The time that it took to do that was ridiculous.
You were that person that everybody is like waiting at the checkout, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this lady with the coupons!" Like she's got like a stack like this.
Oh, but listen, they were organized. They were good.
I don't doubt
I hit up
that.
those BOGO deals. It was get in, get out, get it gone, get it gone,
Get it gone.
get it good, get it gone.
Jump back on the train.
I don't know what's happening. I'm off the track again. Anyway, I can relate to a lot of these things. I have that problem with control as well, and trying to figure out, okay, how can I make stuff happen? I mean, I did that before this podcast ministry, when I knew God had called me to write, encourage women. I try to make up my own ways to do that. And then the Lord is like, no, 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 no. I have a different plan for you. So I very much relate to your story. But in the end, when all of these things left you feeling just as like unaccomplished and frustrated, how did you finally release control of your finances and just give them to Jesus? Just lay it all down.
Well, again, I feel like that is a daily thing.
Yeah.
But the big, I guess if there was a moment, it wasn't that long ago. Last summer, we still are highly involved in camps. And as you guys probably know, you don't really have much time for anything else when you're there. Like, you're just there.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like God, when he wants to get your attention, like everything that comes to your eyes is about that one particular thing. Like, I kept seeing verses on Instagram about trust and how you can trust him and he'll provide for you. And I'm like, okay, I get it. You're gonna do it. It's fine. And it wasn't until we were at camp that I kept having this like vision in my mind where I had a pearl in my hand. And this was my answer, right? Like, this is what was going to provide for us. This was going to be our time freedom and our financial freedom. And God's standing there like, well, give it to me. And I'm like, I don't want to. And, but like, the image of like he has something else behind his back. Have you ever seen that? Or a girl wants to give him, he wants her teddy bear, but he has a bigger bear behind his back. Like, that's kind of what I felt like it was. And I was talking to someone at camp, and I was like, I feel like I just need to let it go. But that's scary, right? Like, even though at the time we weren't bringing in a lot with that business, we used it. We still used it.
Yeah.
And so it was at the end of that summer that I'm like, okay, I'm going to let it go. And, as you're like very painfully like, here you go, like dropping it in his lap. And what's so crazy, and I guess you should expect this, right? Because if God asks you to do something, he's going to provide. We, since then, through a series of different things, have brought in more than what we need than with that business included.
So
Not only that, but like time came back, right? Like, you have time to invest in your family and your girls, which is way more worth than money.
Yeah.
But it's like, what do they call it? God math, or whatever you want to call it. Like, through like, we had a couple of raises come. Girls got a scholarship with their school. So like, even though it wasn't like someone coming to our door and handing us money, like
Yeah.
God still weaved that into our story and provided in different ways.
I love that, Katie. One thing I love about testimony is like your testimony makes me think of like times in my life where the Lord provided in so many ways. And I think like when people listen to this episode, I hope that they hear also that when there were times when all of us have had struggles with money, or I would say all four of us continue to have that struggle, because
Yeah.
not that our churches are not providing for us, they are. They're providing exactly what we need, not what we want, and so we are being provided for, and we are being blessed in so many ways. But also know that there have been hard times. So here, Katie, and here, Stephanie, when she says about cucumbers. Couponing.
I'm sorry.
Who doesn't love cucumbers?
We love it.
Couponing and different little things. Like if God gives you an idea, like be frugal with your money. If you don't have a lot, don't spend it if you don't have it. But like I remember for us, like when Jonathan when we got fired and after severance was done, like we took a major pay cut. And we were eating ramen and Spam, and we just eating all the box foods.
Spam?
Oh yeah,
I
well we
don't know that I
actually
would get
really like
Spam.
Spam. It's like a time in our lives when we're like, hey, it's like we're in Hawaii. But Spam is like, you don't know that about Hawaii?
No.
Oh.
I'm sitting here trying to correlate it.
You learned something new today. You're
I
welcome.
did.
Google
Wow. I will.
it. So anyways, it is hard. And we have all gone through those times where we've had hardly anything. But then I think like what you said, Katie, I love, like, I remember reading Francis Chan Radical. And one of the times in my life where I was like, okay, God, like, Lord, I want to be able to do what you've called me to do. And I say that prayer a lot, and I've been saying it since 8th grade when he called me to missions. But when I usually say that prayer, there's usually something that will come with that he's like, are you sure? And I felt very strongly that he said, then sell your car. That at this time, you don't have a job. Like Jonathan can take you where you need to go and you'll make it work. Or you get a cheaper car, even though we weren't riding like in style. But I said, okay, God. And I remember going to Jonathan and saying, I feel like this is what, I'm supposed to do with my car. And he's like, what? But I said, I think this will help. This will help with payments. This will help with things and blah, blah, blah. And so long story short, I remember Jonathan's dad found out that we were doing that. And literally within, I think, 24 hours, he comes back and says, I'll pay it off.
Wow.
And in that moment, I knew that was like God going, will you sacrifice that? Will you lay it down? Will you surrender it? Because I said to. And so many times that might not happen every time that way. But I believe that he will, when he has done that over and over again in our lives, it has strengthened my faith and my trust. But what has happened through that sacrifice and the different things that we can think about when we've stepped out in obedience, even when we can't see, when we let go of that pearl, when we let go of that teddy bear, that God has something on the other side for us, and our faith will grow. And what I have seen every single time, he never is gonna like it. We think that we're scared, like he's not a good father, like he's not gonna do good for us. He knows what's best for us. So why do we hold on to the things, those treasures on earth, so tightly? And so I just hope people hear just how cool, as we continue to talk, that we all have these moments.
Well, it's funny because I don't know what it is with cars, because we have a car story too. But because we were living with one vehicle, and once again, we had sold a car just because we thought we can handle one. Isaac would ride a bike to work because we literally were just a couple blocks away from the church. And so I just remember for years we had one vehicle. And then one day there was a knock on our door, and somebody from our church asked Isaac if he could borrow $1, or if he could have $1, not borrow. He said, can I have $1? And Isaac was like, okay, sure. And this man we knew made a lot of money. So it was a little weird, but we're like, okay. And so he just gave him $1 because that's just Isaac. He's like, okay, yeah, you can have $1. He then hands him as Isaac gives him the $1, hands him papers for a vehicle that
so
Isaac
cool.
just bought for $1. And it was not a new one, but it was something that would get him from point A to point B. And he loved it. And we were just like amazed that he would do that or even think to do that. And I knew that was the Lord that put it on his heart. And so it's funny. What is it with cars?
Oh, yeah.
I
we have
know.
house
Someone
stories,
gave
too.
me a
It's
car in
crazy.
college.
Look at that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at the Lord.
For
Hey,
$1.
look at the Lord.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking like nobody's given us a car, but yes, they have,
they have.
because
Your whole
my
life.
my whole life, like we literally just like last January, I think it was last January, we got my car, and it's the only car that we have ever had a payment on. It's the only car we've ever purchased as a married couple, and we've been married for 16 years. And so we've always had like either a hand-me-down and at one point we were just down to one car. And then my parents, passed their older car down to us, which is, I mean, it's been a huge blessing. Ian's still driving my parents' old car. So cars. Yeah.
Weird.
Crazy.
The
feet.
first
Wow.
world probs.
Right.
That's what I feel. But
I know.
Yeah, well, and
Provision.
hopefully people will hear. It's not just cars. Like, I mean, the more, like, the more that Katie's going to talk, and the more that we'll talk, like, it is just even the little things he does provide for us.
Yeah,
and sometimes he just gives you that blessing just because, and there's no like reason behind it, which is also really sweet.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Well, and to what you said earlier about why do we hold on to things, at least for me, I think some of it is that we just feel unworthy for that blessing. You know, like we don't really feel like we deserve it, so we don't ask for it. And the Bible clearly says, ask me, you know, and even some of the small things, I think we're just like, it'll be okay, we'll figure it out. But he wants you to ask the small things too. And the more you do that, even that increases your faith.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so good, Katie.
I forgot really one cool story that I feel like God showed up in our life. When my husband had shoulder surgery, I forgot to even say this before, and I feel like he gave it to us to share. So before I share, is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So my husband had tore his shoulder a while ago. Probably did not do what he needed to fix it, so tore it some more and had to have shoulder surgery December. Well, all before this, we needed a new chair because if anybody has had shoulder surgery, there we go, before, you have to sleep in a chair, like you can't lay down. And so we kept praying about a chair. We went to Big Sandy on Black Friday. We found a chair we're going to get. We ordered it and everything, and it was supposed to be delivered while he was taking a trip to North Carolina to help the people there with the hurricane. So the chair was delivered, and it was the wrong chair. And actually, the chair we got was more expensive than the chair we were supposed to get, but it was still the wrong chair. It wasn't the right thing. It had a lever. He has to use power, right? So I called at first, super frustrated because it wasn't our chair. Went back to Big Sandy, and they said they would fix it and swap it. Well, I get to the car, and Ben said cancel it because the guy that I'm with owns a ministry with furniture, and he's going to give us a chair. And we were super excited about that. Total God thing. We're like, okay, we got this. This is awesome. So I canceled the chair. Well, the story doesn't end there. So see, God works different ways. It's not always the way we think. Long story short, that path did not work out. Even though it was an awesome ministry, it just didn't work out for several different reasons. So we're at Christmas now. His surgery's in 2 days. He went and like impulse buyed a $200 chair Royal King that did not work out. It like swiveled, so like when you sat in it, you would just like move. Which does not work, right? So I said, okay, we're gonna pray really specifically because we have 1 day to get a chair now. So that night we prayed that we would be able to take the chair back that we got, even though the box is torn up by our cats. So like take it back, that we would find a chair that we could take home tomorrow, because a lot of chairs that you buy at the furniture stores, they have to deliver it, right? And that would be power, and that would be in our budget. We prayed for 4 specific things. So the next day we lived by Aaron's. So we walked over to Aaron's, they had 3 chairs we could take home that day. It was a little bit outside our budget, but they could work with it. But Ben's like, let's just go to Big Sandy and look. Like, let's just see, make sure we covered all our bases.
Yeah.
So we went there, and they had 1 chair that we could take home that day. It was less than our budget, and it had power.
Wow.
And
Oh
so,
my gosh.
yeah, it's crazy. So we
Oh my
literally
goodness.
shoved it into the back of our car. We couldn't even shut the trunk. We shut it back. We're
It's
taking
coming
this
home
home.
somehow. Yeah.
We're taking it home. We had 2 guys from our church bring it in. And on top of that, my parents gave us money for Christmas for something. And so that covered part of the chair. And then that same day I accidentally overpaid our credit card, and we got the rest of the money that
Oh my
same day the check
gosh.
came in for the chair.
Wow.
I love
Crazy.
that.
So crazy.
That's so
We thought,
cool.
we're going to get a free chair, but it still was free, like it
Yeah.
still
Right.
worked out.
Well, and I
the
think
other
that's
way.
so cool. Like, I mean, we started talking about this because the girls know here that like the word testimony is like on my heart since last year. But like, I love that you said I don't want to not tell the story because it's
Yeah.
not ours to tell. Like it's the Lord's, and
Yeah.
I think that people need to hear that and know that we need to talk about what God does.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it has to be in our conversations. It needs to be in the conversations with our kids, with our spouses, with our friends, with our church, and with people that we come in contact with.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's no arguing the fact that worked out
Yeah.
because of God.
Right.
It wasn't anything y'all did. You
Mhm.
just, but the biggest thing you did is you prayed specifically
Mm-hmm.
and you had faith
Yeah.
and you trusted him that no matter what, something would happen.
Right.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's such a big applicable moment that people need to hear and to stop saying like, well, I prayed a little bit. No, you pray specifically
Mm-hmm.
and you keep
Yeah.
praying until God answers the prayer.
Yeah.
But also it didn't come the way you expected it to.
Right.
It came a
Yeah.
little bit different because his
Yeah.
ways are higher than our ways. So we have to remember this kind of stuff
Mhm.
as we do everyday life with the Father,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that he
No-
wants to do that daily.
Not only that, but I think it's something to be said too that you have always been good stewards of what you have, and I think that is huge. Like that's something that we're trying to teach our kids right now. Like
Yeah.
you get Christmas money, from your grandparents for Christmas, but and yes, it's Christmas, so like get yourself something, but like still think about what you're purchasing. Like be good
Yeah.
stewards. Like it doesn't mean that you should go out and buy the most expensive thing. And that's something that like we're still learning, as we are hitting 17 years of marriage this year. But like,
Yeah.
like, are you being good stewards with the little that you have?
Yeah.
Because if you're just asking for more and you're not being good stewards with what you have already, then why do we think that he's going to give us more? So we know this. You have got some really good knowledge about saving money. Okay. And you know some fun ways you can make money, like Fetch. And you can talk about this in a second for the people who don't know about Fetch. I love me some Fetch.
I know. It's a little addicting.
Oh my goodness. So can you share a few of these things with us and tell us where you learned about them? And then how can our listeners find them? And then also tell us about the resource you created.
Well, the first 2 things I would say, one, obviously the first thing you have to do is trust that he's your provider. Second, remember that you can be a good steward with more than just money, right?
Mhm.
Like I think sometimes like Paul had a thorn in his side. My thorn was finances. I don't think God's ever going to put me in $1 million status, like I don't think that's going to happen, but that forces me to rely on him. And I think that's the case for a lot of us, because if we were too comfortable, we wouldn't. Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
those 2
Exactly.
things are my biggest things that I would encourage anybody is you have so much more to give than just finances. And most of the time that means more than finances.
Yeah.
But the big thing I create, so it's called Start Simple, the resource that I created. I actually created it in digital marketing because I felt like so many people's problem wasn't with making more money. It was with doing the most with what you already had.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think that's probably like the majority of our problem is
Oh,
doing the
sure.
most
Yeah.
that you have. So the first part in that guide, which I think I sent you the link, Stephanie,
you did.
is to figure out what you have. And so I
Mhm.
walk through how to do a budget, which I know this sounds crazy, but so many people do not even have or know how to do a budget because they don't teach that in schools.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't at all. So I walk you through that. And then I walk you through the simple ways of where you can cut back, which most of us know, we just don't want to do it, right?
Right.
And then I walk through where you can save. And that's with using different apps like Fetch. And Fetch is where you can literally scan every single receipt and get points for it. And those points get you gift cards for different things. And if you guys have it, you have an invite link that you can totally share and get extra points, which is so fun. The other ones are, I can't remember the other two, but they're in there. There's a new one I just added called Upside, and you can get money back on your gas.
Gas. Yes. Somebody literally just sent me a
Ooh.
link for this the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's specific gas stations, but most of them are speedways. So if you look up where you're at, it says you can get like so much back per gallon. And then you scan your receipt and you get cash back. It's pretty cool.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
I've used it. I know.
I'll do that one.
I've used it
I'll
here.
use
There's one
that.
gas station here that works. So we're like only going to that gas station right
Yeah.
now.
No, that's perfect. I love that.
Yeah. So then the other thing I would say is get a financial advisor. Most of the time we don't know how to best use our own money if we're not knowledgeable in that. Even those who are knowledgeable, another brain always helps. And in that guide, I did link ours. He's free and he's Christian, which I think is cool. But they usually walk you through things you don't think of even in just your paycheck and your income that will help you long term. So those are the three main things I would say to do. And then the biggest thing is just really pray and ask God to help you steward what you have well. Because I know for us, we're busy, right? And you guys are too. So a lot of our finances goes to food and eating out. And if we like step back and plan that better, then that would save money there too. And there's even like a week's worth of meals, cheap meals in there that they can make. But yeah, there's more in there that I'm not remembering, I'm sure. But those are the biggest things, is really steward what you have, know what you have. I think what is it? Dave Ramsey says name every dollar or something like that. Get a budget so that you know you can keep track of it, and then learn where you can save are the biggest things that you can do. And you'd be surprised. I mean, I was shocked even having kids how much we have over now. But before kids, I was like, we probably had so much more, and I just didn't even realize it.
Well, when we budgeted the first time, I just was shocked, especially when we were in youth ministry, and then it actually has gotten even more now. But like just what it was that we were spending on, food every month was just, I was like, oh my heavens, because you just think, no, it was just, it was cheap there and it was cheap there. And
especially right now with how prices have gone up on everything.
Yeah.
Like it is insane.
For sure. And it is that thing of, it is the quick and easy, and you do have to plan ahead, or, one thing that I've been trying to do in January is like use what we have, even if I can't go to the grocery store, is come up with something and, and make something creative out of that, and don't waste anything. So,
I feel that.
So
I got canned chicken. I got some black beans.
Yeah.
What can I do?
I can make you some tortillas.
We've even played a game. We're like, okay, it's Wednesday. Can we make it till Friday without going to the grocery store?
Yes.
Make it a game.
Like, what can we do with what we have? Yeah. But it does work, and so these are great, super great tips. Very good. Very good.
Show. Katie, you're so smart.
She's so smart.
I don't know
So
about
smart.
that, but thank you.
You actually
So
are.
much wisdom.
Okay, think about this for a second. You and your husband combined are like one really cool super hero human, because with your powers combined, you create these intricate, crazy cool, I know, escape rooms.
So true.
Which with millions of locks and combinations
It's
and
wild.
puzzles and all these things leading to one thing, but there's millions of things, and you got to kind of figure out how they all tie together. Maybe not millions, I'm over exaggerating just a bit.
It feels
But
like it.
point is super smart, plus knowing all these things about finances. I hope you realize that not everybody has those smarts.
Yes.
You are.
Oh,
And so,
thanks.
listeners, you should listen to her.
Yeah.
You should go and check out that resource that she has. I have looked through it a little bit, but I want to go back and really sit down and read through it all and use those resources, because I believe you know what you're doing.
Yes. Really quick, Katie, what are your spiritual gifts? What were your top two when you took it at the retreat?
Administration was one, and service were the top two.
Service.
Administration,
Yes.
service.
1000%. Both of
Yeah.
those knock them out of the
Which
park.
at first, when I took it, I thought administration. I thought principal, and then I thought
Oh.
outgoing. I'm like, that is not me. What is it talking about? And Jenna's like, no.
And I was like,
That's
no,
what that
that's not
means.
what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look at you using your gifts,
She's so
serving
good.
people
Yes.
so well.
And serving us.
Yeah.
Oh,
We do not take it lightly. We're like, I can't believe she's just
Yeah.
wants to help. Like, ugh.
it's a huge blessing.
Anyway, okay, Katie. Well, we have come to your favorite part of the episode. I know it's your favorite. It's riveting. It's the last final
Riveting.
3 questions.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. First one. You got this. If you could go
Okay.
back and give your pre-pastor wifey self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I have to really think about this because even though at one point I wasn't a pastor's wife, I've always been a pastor's kid. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a long time ago to think that far back.
Mhm.
But I think it would be the thing that God has taught me over these years is that sometimes he is going to give you a hammer and nails and say, build a boat, right? Sometimes he is
Yeah.
going to say, do that business, put the work in, do
Mm.
this or that, right? And sometimes he's going to say, just stop and let me part the Red Sea. Like, let me do the work. Trust me. I
Mm.
think those of us, again, with that mentality of go, 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 let's fix it, we have a hard time with just letting him part the Red Sea.
Right.
And so I think that is the biggest pre-pastor wife thing I would say is like, just chill. Like, don't stress
Right.
about it. Whether he asks you to work or whether he asks you to be still, he's got it. Like, you can trust
Yes.
him.
Mm.
It's good, girl.
So good.
That is.
Okay. Number 2. What do you do for fun? Either by yourself or with your hubby, just to get off of all of the ministry things that are happening in your life. What do y'all do? Other than escape, friends that you create.
Honestly, it takes a lot because we are very ministry minded. Like that's what we talk
I
about.
get it. Yeah.
But we love doing games with our kids. We're really working hard on getting them away from screens right now. So we try to do a lot of
Good.
games when we're not blizzard in. We try to get outside. We do love puzzle things. So when we go on date nights, which we need to be better at, but we do. Have you heard of geocaching before?
Yes.
Yes, we love that. We love finding different puzzles around town. And we love making stuff together. Like I say together and that I tell him, let's do this and he builds it. So although with only one
That's great.
arm, he has had me do some things, which is terrifying. So, but they're still working.
That's
So we're
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just mostly stuff of family, I would say, and we love going places, but we don't get to do that very often. So we treasure it when we can.
Okay. Number 3, your last and final question. Are you ready?
Sure.
If you could tell the church congregation one thing without reservation and have them really listen and respond, what would you say?
This is a little off topic, but it's on my brain right now because I'm speaking about it in May. But my biggest thing I would tell the church is armor up. Like, put your armor on, do it every day. Like, your life depends on it because it affects literally everything that you do. And I think if we did that, like the Bible tells us to, we wouldn't have to have so many conversations, about why the church is hurting and why they're not healthy. I even had some thoughts come to mind for that particular conference where God says, your armor is not just about protecting you, it's about protecting everybody else around you. Because when you walk out armorless, then you are the weapon being used to distract other people. And I think as a parent, that is like, it's not just about me waking up and putting my armor on so that I don't get hit with the darts. It's so I am not the dart, right? That the enemy uses.
Yeah.
And so I would say that is the biggest thing I would tell the church because it affects everything. Like if our board, if our church members actually had their armor on, like we wouldn't be arguing about a carpet. Like we wouldn't be arguing about what songs we're playing. We wouldn't be arguing about like tiny things. We would see the big picture. We would be aware when the enemy is attacking and just be so much more vigilant.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Preach. For those in the back.
Stuffy preaching.
It's fine. We like stuffy preaching.
That's right.
Stuffy preaching. Well, Katie, we've so enjoyed having you on the podcast today and just gleaning from your wisdom in a lot of different areas. So thank you. And just thank you for being our
Thank
friend.
you.
And we definitely thank Jesus for you. And I think this is like one of the fun things like we've talked about before, like what's like when people have asked us, like one of the coolest things is if we wouldn't have said yes to this podcast, the people that we wouldn't have, like we would never meet
Yeah.
you in Ohio.
Yeah.
Like it's just so crazy the way the Lord works and the relationships, and you're one of those. So we're just so grateful for you and your friendship. Even if you did not do another thing for us, we're grateful for your friendship and
Seriously.
just who you've been in our lives. And it's just been fun. So, and we're learning from
Absolutely.
you. So we love you and thank you. And guys, if you're out there listening, please listen and pray specifically, and let's be good stewards so we
And
can
use
go out
those
and do what God-
resources that she's
Yes.
got in the show notes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gonna be good.
Okay. Until next time, guys.
Peace out.
Bye.
Okay, friends, if you have enjoyed this episode as much as we have, please help us spread the word on Facebook and Instagram.
If you didn't know yet, Instagram is where all the fun is at. From dance reels on Wednesdays to spiritual encouragement and laugh out loud posts in between, there is something for everyone.
And last but certainly not least, if you could take a moment right now to stop what you're doing and give us a rating and review, even subscribe to our podcast, this seriously helps other people find us who wouldn't be able to otherwise. Thank you so much for your love and support. We hope you'll tune in next week.